Thank you very much, and thank you for that very generous introduction. And it's very hard to follow Marie-Louise, and indeed Macaulay Place is in my constituency, and I can attest to everything that she said about it. Thank you for the invitation to come along and speak here again this year. And obviously, when I talked to you, Joe, I was an independent, and your brochure did accurately reflect that. But in the last week, just the 15th of July, last Wednesday, myself, Stephen Donnelly and Roisin Shortall launched a new political party called the Social Democrats. We launched the Social Democrats in Wood Quay, and part of that venue contains a portion of the old city wall. The wall is very much a symbol of the politics and the governance of the late Middle Ages. And, you know, contained within that wall were the laws. Everything was, you know, the laws and the politics. That was where people lived, and where they decided their fate. And the historical symbolism of that venue, you know, wasn't lost in us. And I found myself touching the wall and thinking of the army of people who constructed that and the kind of vision that they had for how they were going to live. And I think, you know, it's a very different Ireland today to that. Just as it was a very different time to the people when they signed and wrote the proclamation in 1916, or the people who founded the Republic also had aspirations. And I wonder, you know, do we recognise the aspirations of that time today, or even are they valid today? But I think a lot of the idealism is not visible that was there in 1916. A culture, for example, of excessive secrecy pervades our politics. It's only after an event that we get a glimpse of a decision or a set of decisions, you know, that on too many occasions favour those who are in the know, those with connections, those with money. And it's quite destructive. And it's really very offensive to an awful lot of people, to the vast majority of people, I would say. I got a glimpse of that, some of that earlier this year when I pursued some of the issues surrounding SiteServe and IBRC. From leaders' questions to parliamentary questions, eventually to freedom of information requests, getting answers was impossible. This should not have been the case. Indeed, had it not been for the culture of secrecy surrounding IBRC and the department when those controversial deals were happening, the state may well have achieved a much higher price for those distressed assets, your distressed assets. And that would have been in almost everybody's interest. The SiteServe debacle has led to a full commission of investigation. The NAMA scandal is unfolding at the moment, and many of the same patterns that I saw in the IBRC transactions are evident yet again in that. And I predict that we will have another commission of investigation. We're having a banking inquiry, and we're having an inquiry already into the banking inquiry. We're unfortunately no strangers to investigations. They've become a virtual industry. But when do we ever examine the common denominators and address the core issues that lead to them? The excessive secrecy is at the heart of the problem, and the lack of accountability, spin and withholding of information is the order of the day. A feature of a reformed political system that functions in the public interest needs to build in accountability at both political and administrative levels. An open form of decision-making is key to rebuilding trust in politics. It's essential if we're to end the never-ending merry-go-round of scandal, inquiry, report, with very little ever happening to go to the source of the problem. That's why, when we launched last week, one of our first proposals was the abolition of the Official Secrets Act. It's an outdated piece of legislation and not fit for modern Ireland. We need to put a new legislation in place that presumes openness, that allows for transparency, that is not in conflict with whistleblowers legislation, but at the same time takes the kind of precautions for the state for things that are in the national interest. Security would be a case in point. We're first and foremost a society, And in recent years, it has appeared that appears to have been forgotten, or it's almost the entire political focus has been around the economy, and in many cases that has been at the expense of society. It's not acceptable that we have an ever-growing number of people, mostly families with children, who are experiencing homelessness. Anticipating such an event was possible and to a great degree avoidable. Now, I'm not saying it could have been completely avoided, but to a great degree avoidable. Because essentially what we do is, our political system is primarily reactive. What we need instead is to plan and consider how we, anticipate the problems and plan and anticipate them. What we have is we have a habit of creating problems and then trying to resolve them. We recognise the desire for something new in politics, a fresh approach that encompasses the belief that people power can and should prevail. For the past year or more, it has been evident to anyone who cared to listen that there is a real desire not just for change to be delivered, but that people themselves are prepared to participate in bringing about change. If the Irish water debacle has any positive element, it is that it has mobilised people across the country and has awakened the silent majority. And, that's not about just street protest. That is people paying attention to the detail of politics, engaging with others. And in actual fact, social media has allowed that to a great degree to happen. But we need to deepen democracy in a way that brings our citizens into our decision-making. More than ever, we need a clash of ideas. I call it option politics rather than auction politics. Irish people have helped to build many parts of the world, including the man in whose name we've come here this evening, Patrick McGill. But now more than ever, we should be thinking about the need to rebuild Ireland. We should presume and plan for the retention of our population rather than seeing emigration as a pressure valve. If we're to do that, we need to start thinking beyond mere electoral cycles. We need to think about the medium and the long term. If we're to factor in a sustainable future that is available for everyone, where our future is dependent on providing education and training of such high quality that the rate of our corporate taxes become a very minor consideration for those who want to invest. I want to ask anyone who is here who's a parent or a grandparent, if you subscribe, or if your aspiration is for your children or grandchildren to live and work in Canada or the United Kingdom or Australia. If you feel that is, how many people here feel that the future of family relations should be over Skype? I guess that there would absolutely be nobody in this room that would want that. But unless we plan for the medium and long term, that will be an inevitability. We need to plan to retain our population. We also need to look at how we do that. It happens in other countries that are well governed, and it's possible for it to happen here. There has been in the past a lot talked about in terms of balanced regional development, but it has only been talk. Currently, the population of Dublin at 28% exceeds the population of Munster, where there are 3 cities. If we're to aim at balanced regional development, we have to do so by creating a small number of bigger cities. We cannot continue to pretend that this can be done everywhere. If we do, it will be impossible to invest in the services that support the city development, which in turn will be drivers of the economy. The social reformer William Beveridge, who was instrumental in many of the post-Second World War UK radical changes, said, "A revolutionary moment in a world's history is time for revolutions, not for patching up." This quote resonates with me for the Ireland of today. We heard the Taoiseach today talking about stability, and he said it 7 or 8 or 9 times. And, we had the most stable political system between 1990 and 2008 or 2007. But stability on its own is not enough. if we really want to embrace change, the next election must be about setting out a vision, or a variety of visions, about where we want this country to be in the next 5 or 10 or 20 or even 50 years. It must include working towards a sustainable economic model, changing how we govern ourselves and putting the health and welfare of our society at the centre, not at the periphery, the centre of everything we do. When citizens come together in solidarity and recognise their ability to shape their own society, that is a very powerful force for change. We need to embrace that. We need to design it into our systems. We should never fear it. The journey to achieve this vision is one I believe worth taking, but it must be taken together. Thank you.